Hello again, Old Skull here. Welcome to the Castle Old Skull HAWK Moor project, where we explore the deepest roots of Dungeons & Dragons in search of greater understanding and forgotten details that we can use to move forward into the future of old school-inspired game design. The HAWK Moor project celebrates the world of Greyhawk as created by Gygax, as well as the world of Blackmoor as created by Dave Arneson and all of their gaming friends and co-creators. If you enjoy HAWK Moor and you want to keep me around on YouTube, please like, comment, share, save, and subscribe. Today, we are discussing an obscure article written by Gary Gygax almost 50 years ago. It contains one of the few detailed play examples written by Gygax predating the Dungeon Master's Guide. So secure your old school great helm, fasten your gauntlets, and down we go. In early 1976, Dragon magazine still hadn't gotten off the ground. TSR's news zine at the time was called The Strategic Review, or TSR. Gary at this time published articles in various other magazines and fanzines that are now hard to find. In double-numbered issue number 12 and number 13 of the Europa fanzine, he published an article entitled First Adventures in Dungeoneering. This essay gave detailed advice on how to play and dungeon master Dungeons & Dragons before either the advanced game or the basic rules existed. For posterity and remembrance as well as play guidance, I will read you this article in its entirety. It reads as follows. So, you have been thoroughly hooked on Dungeons & Dragons, D&D, and during the last few days, every spare moment has been spent happily preparing several dungeon levels. Great care and thought have been employed to do things just so. And of course, you have spent a bit of time laughing fiendishly at the thought of what the hapless dungeoneers will encounter in choice areas. Actually, you certainly don't want your players to get killed, for then they'd miss seeing just how cleverly you've set them up. They don't want to buy the farm either, unless the dice were unkind indeed. So think about that. A good referee does not wish to deliberately set his players up for certain death in the game, although there are sometimes one or two players who, well, anyway, by the same token, you should not set out to aid them either. The whole purpose of the game is for the players themselves to face the challenge presented by the Dungeon Master's maze, to defeat it or be defeated by it without help or hindrance. If they are clever, they should survive and gain great rewards, and if they are stupid, they should finish themselves off rapidly. This implies that you have located and numbered monsters carefully so that the players can usually fight them on even terms, outwit them, or run like hell. That is, one does not put invisible stalkers on the first dungeon level. If there are errors, they will quickly be spotted in the first adventure, and they should be corrected before the next session. In fact, that is why I urge that a separate key listing monsters and treasures be kept for each dungeon level rather than writing the information right on the map. With all this in mind, let's move on to the actual game. Several players are gathered in some secluded space, and you have a good spot set up where they cannot see your dice rolls or the map. It is a good plan to give them at least half an hour to get everything together. Magic users will have to decide what spell they are going to take. Everyone will be selecting basic equipment, figuring costs, and encumbrance. Although spell selection always takes a bit of time, we have pretty much settled upon the following as standard equipment. 1 dagger, 50-foot rope, 10-foot pole, 12 iron spikes, small sack, leather backpack, water or wineskin, lantern, 3 flasks of oil, holy water vial, quart of wine, and iron rations. Your players can simply compute the price of what they set out as standard and save much time and effort. Additional items and encumbrances can then be noted aside as additions to the standard. Your players will also have to appoint their leader and their mapper. At this point, everything is all ready for the first dungeon descent into the deepest layers. So let us move on to a typical account of a first trip, assuming that the players have moved outdoors to a ruined city, which is reputed to have dungeons beneath it. Gary plays out the example session as follows. So the Dungeon Master says, "You have found the ruins of the deserted city of Detresed," which, by the way, is the word deserted spelled backwards. "You can see that there are streets going northeast, northwest, and north. Most of the ruins are nondescript, but due north you note that there are several larger structures, 1 or 2 of which are in less disrepair than the others. After going northwards a few hundred feet and getting complete descriptions of the ruined edifices visible to them, the adventuring party selects a ruined structure which appears to have been a temple, and they enter cautiously. After thorough exploration, they decide to ignore a set of steps they have located, for a vast stone idol hides a narrow shaft penetrating very deep beneath the temple. This latter would not normally have been located, but careful checking and perseverance found a secret door in the idol's back. The party descends some 40 feet into a large circular arched chamber. It is 30 feet in diameter and has 8 doors. One of the players says, "There is no sense debating. Let's take the door to the west, for it seemed that there were more ruins above in that direction than in any other direction. One member of the party will carefully try the door to see if it will open normally. All others will have their weapons drawn and ready in case there is someone or something behind it." And the Dungeon Master replies, "The door opens normally, without any sound in fact, and beyond you see a 10-foot wide corridor going north." The player responds, "The door didn't make any noise when we opened it? Let's examine the hinges." So the Dungeon Master answers, "The hinges were oiled, greased lock." Another player warns, "Oh, watch out, these doors are used. Helmets off, everyone. Listen at all of the other doors." Gary summarizes the ongoing game process. After some time spent so listening, noise is detected behind the door to the east, and that to the southeast, and meanwhile the Dungeon Master has checked, but the party is lucky, and no wandering monster has happened along during the interim. The brave adventurers ready themselves, creep close to the eastern door, and ready an attack. 2 of the 6 will watch the southeast, 1 will open the east door, and the 3 with bows will have their weapons ready as the door is flung wide. And then a player says, "We are set. Open the door." The Dungeon Master plays it all out as follows. You see a die roll is made, a random roll. 4 hobgoblins attending to some sort of cleric. They are dressed in black and blood-red garments. Now, did you surprise them? Another dice roll that the other players can't see, and the result is 3. No surprise. Initiative check. You are all at +1 because you are prepared. This check shows that the party is able to attack before the cleric and his servitors will be able to react at all. The enemy is approximately 15 feet away, by the way. The leader of the players then declares, "Loose arrows, drop bows, draw swords, and charge. If I can manage to cast a sleep spell during all of this, I'll do so, but I will be careful not to cast it so as to include our men in its effect. The two watching the other door will maintain position. Gary explains the next steps as follows. The Dungeon Master now checks to see which arrows score hits, whom the hits are scored upon, and how much damage is done. Simultaneously, he determines if the magic user who opened the door will be able to get a sleep spell prepared and cast. The chance about equal odd for and against due to preparation and positioning. This is successful, and 4 of the hobgoblins fall to the floor snoring. The cleric was not named as a specific target, and as he is a 4th level evil priest, the general area spell does not affect him. The cleric shouts loudly, points, and an attacker is struck by a light wound spell. Undaunted, the adventurers press on, eager to close with the cleric and to slay him. The next melee turn is spent by the party closing, with the cleric backing and raising his finger to deliver another light wound. Just as the party is about to hack and slay this evil opponent, they hear shouts from the chamber without. Beware, more hobgoblins. There are more who serve this priest. The leader of the party declares, 2 of our fighters will finish the cleric off as quickly as possible. I will go to the door we just entered with the other fighter to help the rest of the party, but while he goes directly to aid them, I will stop and kill the sleeping hobgoblins here. And Gary explains the action. A general melee now ensues in the chamber and in the room where the cleric still fights on. Seeing that the party's 2 fighters and cleric are seemingly holding their own against 6 hobgoblins, the magic user creeps up behind the badly wounded evil priest and delivers the coup de grace. This frees them all for immediate attack upon the remaining hobgoblins. Good thing, too. 1 fighter and the cleric are down, and there are 3 hobgoblins attacking the remaining man. After a long round of attacks and counters, the party finally wins, although only 3 remain alive. The magic user leading it, an elven fighter, and a human fighting man. A player says, well, let's quickly check the bodies and the rooms for any treasure. The priest's quarters will be searched especially well by the elf. The dungeon master answers, you find some silver pieces in the pockets of the hobgoblins. A dice roll determines how many silver pieces for each. And in the robes of the cleric, you find a pouch with 100 gold pieces. Nothing else is found. And a player goes on, let's all go check out that room some more. I am not satisfied that we've located everything, but to be on the safe side, let's spike the door shut good and tight, and the fighter will keep an eye on it also just in case. Gary explains the ongoing play of the game. Several turns are spent in this manner, and finally, a small trap door in the floor is discovered. It is lifted to reveal a hidden treasure trove, an alabaster idol worth not less than 500 gold pieces. As the party is currently in bad shape, they elect to return immediately to the surface. Their comrades are buried, their own wounds are treated, and before passing on the idol to some merchant, they minutely examine it. It, too, reveals a small magical compartment, and after several days, the magic user manages to open it. Therein lies a map to a temple on the 4th dungeon level, a place veritably stuffed with treasure, but strongly guarded by many hobgoblins and powerful men and monsters. Better still, there are some very valuable gems hidden in this compartment too. When the survivors share the wealth and experience, they are all well pleased and rewarded, all going up an experience level. Time now for them to seek some powerful allies and many men-at-arms for a special expedition to the temple. And in closing, Gary says, the above may not be exactly typical, for many first adventures are spent trying to figure out where the party is, for mapping can be a difficult task until you get the hang of it. Also, many first-timers take on monsters that are too powerful for them, or they don't use hit-and-run tactics as they should. Again, I have had first-time parties who had adventures just about like the one above. This all should enable you to ready your own dungeons. The end. Well, there's a lot of good experience and insight there, so I hope you enjoyed that and found it useful for your own gaming. I will see you next time on HAWK MOOR. Happy old school gaming. Be careful where you spend your gold. Take care.